Hello everybody, this is George from the TEL team. In this short screencast, I want to give a basic overview of the layout of Zoom. I know that many of you are already comfortable with all things Zoom, but some people still find the interface a little bit confusing. I know that I would often get lost in the interface. Sometimes I just couldn't find certain buttons. So let's just jump into a meeting here and go over again the main functions of Zoom. So, of course, down here we have the audio and video controls. I think those are pretty self-explanatory. In the security section here is where you can allow students to share their screen or unmute themselves. The participants and chat buttons we'll come back to in a second. We have the share screen, the record button, breakout rooms. Remember, breakout rooms must be enabled in the settings on the website. If you haven't done that, you will not see this button here. And then finally, we have the reactions button here, clap and thumbs up. Okay, if I click participants, this tab will open up on the right side of the screen. If I click it again, it will disappear. Again, if I click participants and then chat, the chat will open up underneath the participants. In the participants tab here, this is where we'll see a list of our students. This is also where you can mute and unmute individual students. And it's also where you can find these non-verbal, I guess, feedback buttons, yes, no, I need a break, these type of things. The chat obviously is where the whole group can chat, or individuals within the group can chat, but it's also where you can share files. Okay, so you can upload something from the computer directly. You can share it through this chat tab. Okay, one thing that sometimes confuses people, certainly confused me, was buttons seem to disappear. And what I mean by that is, if I make this window smaller by dragging it to the left, you'll notice at the bottom, breakout rooms has disappeared. Reactions are now going to disappear. Okay? Of course, they're still available. You just have to click these three dots. Okay? More, and you will see chat, record, and breakout rooms have moved here. If I make this window as small as possible, in fact, the participants tab will also be found. Will also be moved into this more section. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing that would often confuse me was this full screen mode. Okay, full screen is a little bit different to this. Now, you would think that full screen and this square icon here, the maximize icon, you would think that they do the same thing. In fact, they don't. If I click full screen, enter full screen, you'll notice that my app tray at the bottom here will disappear. So this is the Zoom full screen mode. If within the full screen mode I click chat, it won't open up to the side like it did before. Instead, it will be a pop-up window. And the same thing happens with participants. Okay, there's a pop-up window here. So how I like to use Zoom, generally speaking, is not full screen, but rather maximize. Okay, so I still have access to the chat and the participants while still seeing all of the students here in the main screen. Now I can resize this, maybe make it a little bit smaller, and I think this is a good setup. Now, finally, things change even further when we share the screen. Okay, so for example, if I was to share a whiteboard, you'll notice, here's the whiteboard, you'll notice that the control panel, if you will, is no longer at the bottom of the screen, it is now at the top of the screen. And I have to hover my mouse to the top of the screen to find those various features. So again, the same stuff is here. Security, participants, the chat box is now in the more section. Okay, so I can still have access to the chat box. It just looks a little bit different. Okay. Okay, and just one very last thing, and that is if at any point you minimize all of Zoom by clicking on this icon here, you'll notice that what we're left with is just a very small window here that will display just one person speaking. If we want to maximize Zoom, get back to the full screen, all we need to do is hover over this window and click this button that says Exit Minimized Window. And now we're back into our full Zoom. So that was that. Hopefully that may have answered some questions that you had. So thank you very much.